Is up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Hobby Hotline, the hobby's only live call-in show. Happy Saturday to everybody, and as always, my name is DH, and joining me today, we've got Miss Sam Shuford. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing good, and of course, the man himself making his return to Hobby Hotline, Dr. Beckett. What's up, man?
Thank you, Drew. Thank you
Yes.
for being the quarterback today.
we'll do what we can. Probably the Sam Darnold of this. I don't know if we'll be the Brady yet, but one step at a time. But I hope everybody's doing good today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Gonna put the link here down in the bottom. We would love to have you guys call in today with any questions, comments, or topics that you guys would like to discuss as well. What's up, Rex? Love having it on the big screen, brother. Appreciate that. But the link, guys, is right here on the show. So call in and join us anytime you would like. But so I guess today, guys, we'll start out talking about the big event that went on this week, right after the National, it seems. It's been a while since they've had it. They had it electronically last year, at least, but this year it was physical. That, of course, being the Industry Summit out in Vegas. They just had the Industry Summit, and quite a lot of news coming out of it, it seems. You had a lot of very big people in the hobby talking. You had Josh Looper from Fanatics making his first statement since all of that bombshell was dropped on the hobby. A lot of big stuff. The Industry Summit's always one of the coolest events. I haven't gotten a chance to attend one yet. I can't wait until I can. But I don't know how much you guys saw of the Industry Summit and everything. But what were your guys' takeaways if you were able to hear anything about it?
Yeah, I can just kind of start. Honestly, I didn't hear too much. I just saw kind of a lot of people posting pictures together from the Industry Summit. But I didn't hear any of the major takeaways come from, I guess, some of the presentations or things like that. So I'd be interested to hear what you guys heard.
Well, I heard positive. I talked to Jeremy Murray a little bit. He was very pleased. But I've been, it's like the National. I used to go every year,
right?
And I went to all those summits, and then the last several years I go every other one or every third one. But I think I'm making a mistake. I think it's really becoming a more and more important get together. And so I think I had a family obligation that precluded me from going. But I think next year I'm going to try to get it on my calendar early.
Yeah, that's the same thing that held me up this year. Well, family obligation, and myself and my son got really sick, and we didn't want to take the chance with everyone else there and put anybody at risk. So we stayed home, stayed back. And but I agree. I think the National is obviously just is a massive show and so much more, but the Industry Summit really is where you can find, especially as this hobby grows so much and is getting so big. It's really, like you said, it's become one of those things that's almost a destination event, that's something that you need to be putting on your calendar, because not only the connections you can make, but just the stuff you can hear of what's going on, the state of the hobby from the people that are on the ground floor that are doing this every single day. It's a very, very big event.
I think Rex has an excellent comment on the chat. And basically, the questions that the hobby is wrestling with are not easily solved. but we can work toward it if we all get in the same room. And so I think that's why I need to be there. I want to be a force for good in the industry. And, for last year, nobody really got together. And then this year, people coming together, they don't necessarily have to answer all the questions, Rex, because some of the questions are not answerable.
Right.
But when even quasi-competitors getting together in the same room, there's an opportunity to work together to build the hobby. So I hope that's what the summit always stands for and has greater and greater inclusion.
Absolutely. I completely agree. And it also there was a show attached to it as well, that seemed to have been completely packed. And that's always a great sign as well, seeing that stuff moving forward. But taking away taking away just the industry summit, Dr. B, this is something I wanted to ask you right now with everything that's gone on and where we are today. What is, if you were at the summit, if you were one of the speakers talking about where we are now at the hobby, the state of the hobby, what would you be saying? What are your feelings on where we are today as a, I guess I can't really call it a hobby anymore, but an industry?
Well, probably, and I don't know that Brian Gray is the sage of the industry, but he certainly can be the voice at times. And his word is pivot. And he was at our content creator dinner we had a few weeks before, and that was his word. I think he's spot on. That business as usual, or hunkering down, or getting defensive, or retrenching. That's not the approach right now. It's to be creative. It's to be thinking about new partnerships or new ways to do things. And so being able to pivot is, and again, pivoting not just on your own, but with some other sympathetic partners who all want the hobby to thrive. So I think Brian's onto something.
Sam?
Yeah. I think that's a good point there. For, I think, being flexible in any kind of point in life is a good thing. So yeah, I can definitely agree there. I think, obviously, I'm kind of new still. I still consider myself new to the hobby, so I wasn't sure, I guess, maybe what it was like beforehand. But I think, yeah, I think just staying flexible and staying open to how it can transform, even as I continue to stay in through the years, is going to be interesting to see, and important.
Yeah, I unfortunately wasn't able to make it down to the Dallas show, but I have spoken to Brian and talked to a couple of people. But pivot is an excellent word, and something I completely agree with. And one of the things I always say is, there's always something in this hobby. It's always going to be changing. You've got to adapt. You've got to pivot. You've got to go with what the hobby gives you, and what moves are made, you've got to adjust. And I think that's where a lot of people struggle, is they get, obviously, people afraid to change, set in their ways, and a lot of uncertainty right now. Let's be honest, there's a ton of uncertainty, whether it be from distribution aspects to what we're going to be looking at in terms of who's going to be on cards in a few years, everything. There's so much uncertainty that it can cause a lot of frustration in a lot of people. But pivoting is an excellent word. Kudos, Brian Gray. I wish I could have seen his speech at the end of the industry summit. I was told it was absolutely wonderful. And guys, if anyone watching, if you were at the summit, please call in, let us know your thoughts, and let us know what you thought of everything, some of the speakers and all of that. But I definitely think at any point, if there was any point in the industry right now where it is time to pivot, it is time to kind of sit back, take a look at where everything is, and maybe adapt your strategy, so to speak. Now would be the time.
Drew and Sam, even the use of the word pivot, from basketball, in several sports, but in basketball. But when I played basketball, pivoting was more restricted. You really had to keep your pivot foot down.
Right.
If you slid it just a touch, you were called for traveling. Well, today's NBA is way more dynamic. And I've seen the broadened definition of pivoting that's legal. And that's what's happening in our hobby. The creativity, and it's not a slight pivot. It's taking liberties with a pivot.
Yeah, it's 2 James Harden step backs,
which these superstars can get away with. And I think that's what's happening on our industry. Some of the bigger players in the industry are making very bold moves that before would have been not illegal, but just not the way it would have been done. So I think that's the parallel there, which is it's scary, but it's exciting.
Yeah, no, I do agree. They definitely are making some bold moves, that's for sure. We'll see how it all plays out. Once again, guys, I see a lot of people just now tuning in. Welcome. Putting the link once again. Please call in and join the show. Let us know if you were at the summit. Give us your breakdown, what you thought of everything, or if you got any questions on anything else or comments on the hobby, please feel free to call in. We'd love to have you guys join us on the air. But yeah, I completely agree. I think it is a time where you're seeing a lot of people make some really bold moves. I think you're seeing the effects of the news we got a couple of weeks ago from a lot of different companies. If you look at upcoming release schedules, if you look at some upcoming products, I mean, for example, one of the hottest products right now, at least in terms of gaining value each week, is Topps Chrome MLS, something that was before, kind of taboo. MLS was not something you would touch. You're seeing a lot of different things come up, but Dr. B, you mentioned a lot of different risks. When you see these companies taking these risks, do you think what are your feelings on them? Do you think that they're doing the right thing? How do you feel on those?
Some of the riskiest plays are being done with other people's money.
Yes,
there's some big money that maybe not as knowledgeable about the industry, but is excited about the future. They're making some big bets. So I think so some of it's coming externally. If you're an LCS or a show promoter or a hobby supplier, you're probably continuing to do what you're doing. But some of these digital plays and other kinds of NFT and NIL, those are breakthroughs, and there's new money coming into those, and there's a different risk profile of those kind. They're investors. They're clearly looking at it as a business, as an industry, as an investment. And so again, maybe we're not in a hobby anymore. Maybe we're just an industry.
Yeah, I really think that's where it's going. You mentioned NILs, and that's something that as soon as that ruling came down, the first thing I thought of was cards. Obviously, anytime I see any news, I try and relate it to cards if I can. But when I see the NIL stuff, the first thing I thought of was cards. What do you guys think in terms of the NIL that we'll see here in the next? I think it'll probably be next year. I think it's probably when we'll really start to see some stuff pick up. But do you guys think that we're going to start to see a lot of, NIL type stuff, a lot of possible third-party companies coming into play with NIL, signing some of these exclusive young athletes? I mean, there's a couple of up-and-coming companies that I looked at their Instagram, and they're signing these top college quarterbacks, and they've got 50 followers. And it blows my mind. I mean, the money that they've got to sign these guys, but the NIL really opens up. It opens up millions of opportunities for all card companies all around. So what are your guys' feelings on the NIL and how it's going to, translate to the hobby? Sam,
you want to go first?
Yeah, I can start. I think it's going to do kind of as what you're saying is, I think it just opens up so many more doors and opportunities for more companies, whether it be these kind of third party companies that aren't known yet. If they're able to sign these athletes, I think it just opens up these opportunities. But in terms of cards, I'm just kind of interested to see, do these athletes really recognize, they're signing now, but what is that? How long are they going to be signing for, like the exclusivity with that party, or are they eventually is a bigger company going to try and, take over that contract or whatnot? So I'm just interested to see kind of how that plays out, and kind of what these young athletes really decide for themselves at the time. I think it's going to be interesting.
Well, NIL was announced or released or declared on July 1st, I think.
Mm-hmm.
It got a lot of play for a few weeks. Then all these other bigger news things have come out.
Yeah.
But if in July, I think the Topps Panini Upper Deck not necessarily as much Leaf, but the three biggest card companies, I think they weren't ho hum, but I think they were thinking, oh, that's interesting. We'll look into that. Well, after Fanatics is jumping in,
Yeah.
I think Topps, Panini, and Upper Deck need to be way more aggressive, and probably will be. Can you imagine Bowman kind of prospects and Bowman Chrome kind of prospects that cover football and basketball if they can sign them
Yeah.
up? So I think there's a play there for the bigger companies. These smaller companies are locking them in. Again, I don't know that there's a reason for a college athlete to be exclusive unless there's a whole bunch of money thrown at them.
Right.
Otherwise, why can't they just, sign with whoever they want to sign with and get cards and autographs and stuff? I mean, it's going to shake out with respect to. I don't think you can use game use stuff because I think that's infringing.
Yeah, I
But you could
believe so.
use player worn
Mhm.
T-shirt or something.
Yeah.
So I think Topps, Panini, and Upper Deck ought to be jumping in and really getting creative of how they can get a piece of that pie. Because if Fanatics is going to take a giant piece out of their pie, this could be a growing piece of the pie to replace that.
Yeah, I agree. And Upper Deck in particular has done some major moves lately, bringing back some legendary employees that were responsible for some of the biggest releases ever to head up the re-release. For example, Skybox Metal and the hockey that was just released. They brought back all the original designers. They've really built that team back up for something strong. And you're right. You've got the opportunity now where these companies could all get multiple different sports and have a lot more than they did before, and have an opportunity to have revenue streams and products for people that were never there before. And I agree. I don't think when it first came out that they gave it a thought whatsoever, but now they've got to. It's one of the things that you definitely have to be looking at.
Well, Panini looked at it initially in an announcement that they were working with a group that was going to aggregate players.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of the way to go. If you do the one-offs, and the small companies can do the one-offs, and Topps has done that to some degree, but the power of the brand to sign up a group, the Power 5 conferences in football or some of these major ACC and basketball, if you had a group licensing of, again, I don't think college athletes necessarily want to unionize, but some kind of an association for licensing purposes. If that's in the works, then I think Topps, Panini, and Upper Deck, anybody would be interested in that. Fanatics would be interested in it too. So.
Yes. Well, 1977 Cloth, what's going on? Has a really good question, and I'd like to hear both of y'all's opinions on this. But he asks, is the top thing the license or the brand? And he says Topps is a trusted brand, Fanatics is a question mark, at least in terms of the hobby. I mean, we've all seen Fanatics and what they've done everywhere else. They've been wildly successful. And very much respected. But when it comes to it, what is more important, do you think, the license or the brand?
Sam, did you study that in school?
I know, that is a good question. I feel like I've never really thought about this. Is it more important for it to be Topps, or is it the licensing of the league or whatnot? And I think it's a really good question that I have to think about more. I don't know if Dr. Beckett, if you want to take this one.
Well, I mean we shouldn't have to choose, and we didn't have to choose until now. And so, if it's the license or the brand, Fanatics can say, "Okay, I've got the license. We'll see how much brand is important." And my comments about them trying to work out a deal, sub-licensing deal, Brian Gray doesn't think that's going to work, but we'll see about that, and that'll be the test. Is the brand really that important? And history says that when Panini jumped in, they had some name recognition, a decade ago, whatever. But if they've come on really strong, so I think the hobby, if you put out a great card set, and it's not like Fanatics is not a known entity. So I don't think Fanatics is, if they decide to do their own cards, I'm not betting against them. I think they're going to create they already have a brand, and that brand's going to be, in fact, they want to extend their brand to gambling,
Yes.
potentially to grading, to every, to marketplaces. And so that brand, they want to be, they want to be the brand, I think. When you think about cards, you think about sports, you think about Fanatics.
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. You think about a jersey, you think about a hat anywhere. I mean, that's any good. Go Google any jersey, any memorabilia, anything along those lines. The very first thing very first couple links you're gonna see is Fanatics. So in terms of that, I agree. I think we shouldn't have to choose, like you said. You're right. But like 1977 Claw said, baseball is tops. And I do agree to an extent that, I mean, it is. That's what baseball's always been to me. That's what I always remembered Topps as, and I think a lot of people have always associated that with it. But sub-licensing, you mentioned, Dr. B. I hadn't gotten a chance to hear you speak on that, but are you suggesting Fanatics sub-licensing out those different licenses to the current card companies?
Well, there's any number of ways that they could just buy. Fleer is no longer a company, but Upper Deck bought the rights to their brands, their patents, their copyrights, their trademarks, I suppose, when Fleer was perhaps bankrupt.
Right.
So they're using them. Now, Topps is not going to be bankrupt. Topps could be purchased, or they could make a deal to say you can use our Topps trademark. Again, Brian thinks that's unlikely. And maybe it is unlikely, but I think it's not off the table. So I think they're going to be Topps cards in 5 years.
Yes.
And I think they're going to be Topps baseball cards. I just think unless they work through Fanatics, they're not going to be Topps baseball cards that work through the Major League Baseball Players Association.
Sure. Yeah. What do you think?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
No.
Going back to the license versus the brand, and I think kind of the first thing that I think of is Panini Prism or Panini Baseball, and kind of that whole situation. And I know some people, obviously they don't like it because they don't have the license, there's no logo. So, but obviously some people still buy it. I mean, I think it's going to be up to kind of the customer to kind of drive that question or the answer to that question as well.
Well, the other aspect of it is the brand. A brand, I won't say some brands can just exist and get and kind of be viral, be in the culture, and Topps is like that. They don't have to do any marketing or promotion, and they'll always be Topps. On the other hand, the upstarts, the Fanatics, didn't even exist, whatever that was, 10 years ago or so. They popped out of nothing, and they're a huge brand that people think of. And so you take a brand that's not as well known and you throw lots of marketing dollars at it, which you can do when you have the exclusive license, and you can build up the power of that brand. So that's what I expect Fanatics to do. What Brian's saying is that why would Fanatics want to build up the Topps brand? They want to build up the Fanatics brand. And but again, then why do they have lids stores? Why wouldn't they just be Fanatics caps? Or Rich Klein has said that. I mean, with the lids stores, if those are a broader based Fanatics outlet in the malls, and people come there to pick up their online orders or to see samples of the products, I agree with Rich. I think that's a winner.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think that would be wonderful. And I do agree, 1977 Cloth. I do think that this could easily bolster the brand for stuff like wrestling, Star Wars. And Topps did just re-up with UEFA. So Topps has got UEFA now, which is a very big get. It's a very short agreement. I think UEFA themselves are kind of testing the waters to see how that works. It could be Topps, but I see this more on UEFA's end as saying, okay, we've got a lot of people coming after us. We'll stay with you and see how this goes. But, Topps has got the UEFA. The soccer market is absolutely on fire and exploding. lots and lots. We got hey, Mr. Newman. Howdy.
What's up? Hey, I'm here with Mark.
Hey guys.
Hey. What's going on?
We're in Cooperstown. We're in Yaz Sports.
Nice.
Spending money.
Very nice. So what's going on in Cooperstown today, guys?
Well, I'm looking at Jackie's I can't afford. I don't know. I don't know about Mark.
I got an Eddie Collins on the table.
Nice.
So we just wanted to say hi.
Awesome. What you guys doing in you taking a tour and everything today, going to see all the event? I've never been.
Yeah,
I've always wanted to, but what's the plan for today?
We can't hear you very good, so this is not going to make for a good segment, but we just wanted to pop in from Cooperstown. So
awesome. Well, thanks for calling in, guys. Have a great time.
All right, we're out.
See y'all later. There's Mr. Newman and Yam Wax out at